Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello and welcome back to the channel where you join me on a lovely day to head out with a collection of a surprise addition to the Shmeemobiles. We are actually currently driving in the Ford GT, taking it for a run as we go out to the Porsche Centre Hatfield, where at the end of last year I picked up my new Porsche Taycan Turbo S. Today though, to collect a very different Porsche, a 718 GT4. Now about 4 or 5 years ago, I used to own a 981 Cayman GT4. It was an epic car, so many amazing memories driving that thing. And recently, I got thinking a little bit more about the 718. I've talked a lot about the upcoming 718 GT4 RS. So while I was in the USA, I reached out to my Porsche salesman at Hatfield and said, what about a GT4? Well, they happened to find one that ticked all of the boxes, and I said yes, more or less immediately. And today is the day to go and pick it up. So we are heading out for the spontaneous delivery of the latest Shmeemobile, a 718 GT4. Taking the Ford GT today is quite fun because this is of course also a 6-cylinder car, a very different 6 cylinders, a twin-turbo V6 as opposed to the naturally aspirated flat 6 of the GT4, which is part of what makes that car quite so fantastic. Manual gearbox, naturally aspirated engine, and just everything beautifully coming together as well. The chassis, the steering, the balance, everything about it, and that's why I've been so excited to go and pick up another GT4. The new 718, a step ahead, not a massive change from the older car, a few things that will feel quite different, which we'll go into a little bit later, but for now it is a beautiful afternoon. Thankfully the weather is on side, and of course here in the Ford GT is always a magnificently good time. A car that, when I was talking to Sammy, my sales guy at the Porsche dealer, and he asked if I could bring this, and I thought that would be a pretty good excuse to take this car out again today. So we're not very far away from going to pick it up and then collecting the GT4. We are just about to arrive then. The Porsche dealership is right here. Last time around we came in the G63, which was a spacious, practical, comfortable car, to collect another spacious, practical, comfortable car, whereas this time we have come in a very impractical 2-seat sports car to come and collect a slightly less impractical 2-seat sports car. So let's head around, and I wonder if we're going to be able to spot the car somewhere in the showroom. I have not actually even once seen this car myself, so have a quick look. Can we see it somewhere? Is there a new GT4? There's a Taycan, there's a GT3 RS. There are some very nice cars, GT3 Touring. So I think we need to go around towards this side to go and say hello and figure what we're doing. It should be just here, he says. Yes, there is a car under a cover through the window with a little bit of a wing. That's my GT4. So let's head inside then and go take a look. We made it here right on time at the end of the day with just a few minutes to get the documents submitted, but all of that has now been signed off and completed, which means it is time to reveal the Porsche. Here in the handover bay at Porsche Hatfield, we have a nice plaque from the guys with the Shmee logo. Congratulations, Tim, on your beautiful 718 Cayman GT4. A look there at the colour scheme. A big thanks to Sammy and the team here at Porsche Hatfield. Let's take a quick sneak peek at what we've got under here for the moment. GT4 there on the splitter. Carrara White is the name of this colour. But actually, let's stand back. We've got the button to open this up and reveal the new Shmeemobile 718 GT4. Let's do this in all of its glory. Check this car out. Let's take a walk around. We've got the satin Aurum Gold for the wheels, just like on the Taycan. We've also got the yellow PCCBs, the Porsche carbon ceramic brakes. It's a highly specced car, as you might hope. We've got the 918 style carbon fiber bucket seats on the inside. But this is going to be such a cool car to drive. I've been lusting after a GT4. It is a car that is all about bringing everything together to be an ultimate car to drive down countryside roads, to go and enjoy. And yeah, look at this. It's quite likely it's going to be wrapped quite soon, but Carrara White with the Aurum Gold, this is really cool. Let's come and take a look then at the full specification on my 718 GT4, the Carrara White with, as I said, the Aurum Gold wheels, the same colour wheels that we optionally painted my Taycan Turbo S wheels to match the gold pinstripes I put around it. So maybe I'll think about that in terms of the design. I'll talk more about that in a second. In here we've also got the PCCBs, the very expensive optional carbon ceramic brakes. They give you the yellow calipers, the carbon discs, but do last a little bit longer, better for track performance, that kind of thing, and hold a bit of their value as well on resale. Now there's a mix with GT4s. Some come like this car on the Dunlop Sportmax Race 2 tyres, some come on the Michelin Sport Cup 2s, which seems to be a bit random. We've also got the gloss black door handles, that's an option, but a story about this paint colour. A lot of people think it's Carrara White, like the 911 Carrara, but it is in fact Carrara, which is named after Carrara itself, a town in Tuscany in Italy where they have white marble quarries, hence matching with the white paintwork. Now my car, like my old 981 GT4, wears the SH14 MEE plate for GT4. I think that's a pretty good connection, isn't it? We'll probably put one on with a quote from Ferdinand Porsche in due course. We've also got the black Porsche logo, and of course the GT4 badge as well. All GT4s have the fixed wing at the rear, a slightly different design to it to the previous car, but of course there is a naturally aspirated flat six that sits back here, mid-engined, behind your occupants in the car, in front of the rear axle, and part of what makes it such a fantastic car to drive. Now inside, we've got the 918 bucket seats, these very nice carbon fibre buckets. We've got the black leather and Alcantara combination, the yellow contrast stitch, yellow GT4 embroidery, yellow seat belts. We've also got the white dials for the dashboard, something I quite like. Just over 6,000 miles on this car, but crucially, we've got this, the manual gearbox and a clutch pedal. We've also got the optional aluminium pedal set down there, even also the Bose upgraded sound system. So let me take a step inside here. This feels good, just slightly upgraded on the old 981, still with these very over-engineered cup holders. One of the most unnecessary, over-the-top things of any Porsche ever, but really very, very cool. And then we have this, and this is so much of what this car is about. They do now offer it as a PDK, by the way, but I think I wanted one of these. I wanted another manual in the garage, a manual with the engine back there. Something I talked about when I recently drove 2006 Ford GT as well. An absence from my collection, but this feels cool. This feels very, very cool. So I suppose in a second we'll get it started, take it outside and go for the first drive in my GT4. Just before we hop on board to go out with the GT4, we have also added the new Flat 6 design, the Flat 6 collection, to the Cheers by Shmee 150 store with this design and more to coincide with the arrival of this car in the Shmeemobiles. So go check those out, but for now, let's go for the first drive. Let's get this started back up. That sounds so good. 420 horsepower of naturally aspirated Flat 6 in this car. We need to get everything set up, obviously brand new, all alien to me at the moment. Air conditioning, let's get the temperatures set, make sure all of this is kind of right. That looks good enough. We've got the radio off. We'll shuffle back a little bit. These buckets actually have an electric control to go up and down. It's just a small amount. This feels very at home immediately. We've got a nice little countryside loop to go for a drive on. Electric park brake. Big thanks to the guys here. We've got a full tank of fuel. So let's go drive then, here in my new 718 GT4, exhaust button on. Oh, that sounds better. That makes a huge difference. Very muted, much louder. Huge difference that you get with that. Okay, I think that's pretty much going to be permanently on. You have the option now on the 718 with the auto blip. On the 981, if you had it in sport mode, you always had auto blip on. If you had it out of sport mode, you always had auto blip off, which meant that the fans effectively ran at different degrees or different engine temps, so you kind of wanted it in sport. Obviously a car like this is very low to the ground with no lift system. That was always one of the bugbears of my 981, but it feels so clinical. That's the thing with this car, it's all so perfectly in sync with itself. Instantly, it just feels so precise. This is gonna be good. The best thing about buying a car that's done some miles, and when it's already a little bit warm, is that we can immediately drive it, no waiting until it's run in. That sounds pretty good. I tell you one thing you do notice instantly though, are these very, very long gears. Something that's been hugely discussed on the 981 and on the 718 is how long second gear is, basically between second and third. And you're pretty much doing everything. In fact, second gear tops out at like 80 miles an hour or something ludicrous that you should probably never be doing. But with nice roads like this, you could not have a more perfect car. Small, nimble, well balanced, easy to position, right amount of power. You're not going to get yourself landing into massive amounts of trouble driving in a GT4 versus some of the supercars with ludicrous amounts of power. And this, I just know from the times I've driven them, from everything that the car is and what it represents, manually flipping it down, it's just a great thing to use as I intend to use it. The new Shmeemobiile is located on countryside roads, kind of like this, and it's going to be the car to pull out and to enjoy driving on them. With that glorious soundtrack, naturally aspirated engines. I don't think there's really a better car shy of spending huge amounts of money. This is, bang for buck, a fantastic machine. Loads of grip. Plenty of power. And we're actually approaching one of the best tunnels and the perfect place to bring a GT4 to enjoy a little bit of sound out of it. Of course you have the valves. Obviously for the 718 it's OPF, so it's a little bit quieter than the 981. There are indeed ways that you can solve that little problem if you want a little bit more sound out of these things. In fact, I had a headers back IPE system on my 981 and it sounded oh so incredible. But as we get towards a tunnel, window down a touch, drop the gear, drop another gear. I guess with this we can drop another gear. It's actually not loud enough. I think the car needs to be a touch louder with the wind noise. It's yeah, significantly shy of the screaming sound I remember from the days of my old GT4. It's still, don't get me wrong, it's a very, very nice sound to the engine. A very nice sound. The downshifts in here, obviously doing it myself, or with auto blip engaged into first, it does it for you. It's more rewarding when you do it yourself, isn't it? It's just more rewarding. I'm glad they made it possible for the 718 that you don't... Oh, stop start. I don't think the 981 had stop start. Straight back on again. I think that was new for this generation. This is cool. I like this car, if you couldn't tell, by the way. I know it's probably not the most dramatic, special, crazy, exciting car that I've ever picked up, but this is a purchase of the heart, we could say. A car that I just want to enjoy owning and driving. A car that I'm just gonna enjoy to the max and might visually look quite different before very long. Having swung back around then to Porsche Hatfield to come and collect the GT, you will notice there is one change that I did make to the car before going on out, which was of course to give it a front plate, to put the SH14 MEE on the front of it. Now the GT4 does come with something that we have in the rear boot, because the car has two boots. Back here we have the original front number plate plinth, but I'm not the biggest fan of those. I think you have to be pretty crazy to drill a plinth into the bumper, so thankfully this is able to stick on exactly as I did it actually back at the time with the 981. And then in addition to that, you also have the front storage space, which makes this overall a fairly practical car. And a big thanks to the guys for the pouch of the key rings and the picture from collection day as well, and of course the full tank of fuel that this one has come with. Now one thing I do want to address that you might have noticed about it, this car has PPF fitted, but it's one of the worst PPF jobs I've ever seen, and they were talking about removing it prior to sale, but I figured I would do that myself. Things like the mirrors, which have basically stretched, leaving weird glue marks everywhere. It should be fine underneath. There's been one thing around here you might have spotted, which we think is just in the PPF and easy to remove, although we're going to change those plastic front grills as well to put new ones on, just to give it a new lease of life for any of the little stone chips that it's picked up. But outside of all of those, the car is of course perfect, which was absolutely a necessity, we could say, for this. Anyway, let me go and grab the GT, pull the two around, and then we'll be back straight on the roads to get this home. Quick moment then with the GT4 back alongside the GT before we set off to head back home, but I always think it's quite fun to have various of the different Shmeemobiles out in all sorts of different combinations. Today, the two current 6-cylinder engine cars in the garage, as I said earlier, the 4-litre flat 6, the 3.5-litre twin-turbo V6, and soon to be joined as well by the 3-litre twin-turboed inline 6 of the M3 competition in a matter of days. But these are two quite different approaches to sports and supercars, we could say. Both 6-cylinder mid-engine rear-wheel drive cars, but the GT, the absolute out-and-out track performance, aerodynamics, twin-clutch gearbox, all about motorsports and racing. The GT4 from Porsche's GT division, but I'm going to say, especially in this specification, more of a car to enjoy the driver-focused nature while blasting down countryside roads. Obviously, the manual gearbox as opposed to the twin-clutch, but a much smaller, much more nimble, agile car, despite still being incredible out on track as well. And I'm sure I will get plenty of opportunity to experience that with this thing in anger at some point in the future. For now though, we need to get, well, say our farewells. A big thanks of course to the team here at Porsche Hatfield, and then get on the road with these two to take them back home. Back at home, and of course for the first time with the new GT4, it's made it in. I was a little bit anxious about the front splitter. When it comes to low cars, we have some difficult ramps in this underground garage, which makes it a little bit difficult, and I remember from my 981 that it had a tendency to scrape a little, so the trick to this is actually to reverse it down the ramps. Now it gets more difficult the further down you go, so I need to see if this is going to be feasible. We shall find out. The most difficult of my cars is the Aston GT8. If you have the carbon splitters on, if you take them off it gets a little bit better, and then the worst would be the AMG GTR Pro. Of course we're talking those and this that don't have a lift system. If you have a lift system like in the Ford GT, no problem whatsoever. But being back here then with the GT4 means it is introduced to the Taycan for the first time. The two cars that I've collected from Porsche Hatfield, that about what, 4 or 5 months ago. The two cars that both have gold accents with the wheels and the pinstripes we put on the Taycan. Of course the wheels at the moment on the GT4, and actually technically the third car with gold accents with the Ford GT parked just over there as well. But you couldn't really get further apart for two cars wearing the same badge. The EV 4-wheel drive comfortable large luxury vehicle, the rear-wheel drive manual naturally aspirated 2-seat sports car, yet both fantastic products in their respective ways. Obviously on the Taycan I have the quote here, as I mentioned earlier, from Ferdinand Porsche. I'm sure I'll do a small change with this to come, but obviously the plate will have to come off when we do the wrap, which may or may not involve removing this PPF. Honestly, there are a few stone chips. Obviously PPF picks up and you can see some of the marks, which hopefully go when you pull the film away. It's got front end PPF, so over the bumper, the wings, the bonnet, the mirrors as well, and I think probably some of the lower skirts and things, not necessarily over the entirety of the car. But I want to remove this PPF, to be honest, anyway, just because the edges are not the best, we can say. But it's good to have the GT4 here, and I tell you what, like all plans, I've obviously been thinking about colours and options for this, but now that I'm seeing it in the Carrara White with the gold wheels, it looks so nice and it's tempting me to keep it this way. I've been there before when I've had this kind of thing, but I think I want to make something completely unique with this car, so that will all come very soon. Obviously to get back, I piloted the GT, so the GT4 is awaiting many more fun miles to be driven in the near future, and that is of course all to come as well. Don't forget the new line, the Flat 6 collection that we've added to the Cheers by Shmee 150 shop. You can of course see here the gold accent theme carrying through. I think that's really quite cool, so check those out as well. But for now, what an awesome day. What an amazing thing to have added a GT4 back to the garage. I'm very excited about this, having had an absence of Porsche GT cars for, I want to say, is it now about 3 years? It's been long overdue since I sold my 991.2 GT3. Well, the GT4 is back in the garage, a manual in the garage. So now the manuals, the GT8, the GT4, the GR Yaris, and Heritage Focus RS. Now that would be a cool drive out with all of those together. Those are all proper drivers, fun cars with quite different configurations. Interesting, the Focus and the Yaris are quite similar. Interesting, maybe we need to do something fun with that in the near future. For now though, a big thanks again to all of the team at the Porsche Centre Hatfield. A big thanks to Sammy. This is cool. The journeys ahead are going to be really cool. This is a car that, like I said, is bought for the driving side, for the passion, bought with the heart. I know I'm going to enjoy it, and I've barely even started. That's it for now though. Thank you very much guys for your support as always. Without you guys it wouldn't be possible. I cannot say thank you enough. But that's it for this time. I'll see you again very soon. Cheers.